Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Heartful of Hallmark. We are so excited to be joined once again by Colin. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And today we're here to talk about his new movie that is not climbing a mountain.
Very flat. Very, very flat.
Yeah.
Very flat and probably a little bit warmer, maybe. We'll get into that. But
Definitely.
You have two gems, two people, one particularly that is very well known on TV with Jaicy Elliott. This is premiering next Saturday, Love on the Amazon, next Saturday, Hallmark Channel, 8 p.m., and next day, Hallmark Plus. So, you guys don't know. Let's try it one more time. You guys know how this works. Our names are going to pop up on screen right next to the question. And we're not going to talk over each other. That way we get our time with you and then you with us. After that, we'll get to know you a little bit better. Side note, we have not prepared any of the other questions that are not on screen because we're just going to go off the fly and get to know you a little bit better.
All right.
And as always, Kirsten is going to start first.
Okay. So my first question for the movie is, how did you approach directing a Hallmark movie that steps outside of like the usual small town theme or formula?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like in some ways I've kind of that I do more of those than the classics. The first couple of movies I directed were very much more the classics. Christmas at Pemberley Manor and Romance at Reindeer Lodge were both kind of small Christmas town, that dynamic. But recently I've been doing more travel kind of rom-com, little screwball adventure, often non-Christmas, mostly non-Christmas. And, you know, I try to think of what is the Hallmark take on whatever thing we're doing, right? Like, how do we fit this type of story, this type of movie to the Hallmark audience? And this one actually began, it was not my origination. It came to me from Tim Johnson, who called and was like, hey, what do you think about doing essentially oh gosh, one of my favorite movies, African Queen on the Amazon River. And I was like, yes, absolutely. One of my favorite movies. Would love to go there. I'm in. And you know, there had already been a little bit of work on the concept, but we kind of Juliana, Maura Dunbar, Tim, and I kind of came in and started developing the story that you see. You kind of think of how would that work as a Hallmark movie. It really is more about tone and kind of expectation and fitting the generic elements. By generic, I don't mean standard. I mean like of this genre, right? The like river adventure romance movie to the Hallmark style.
Yeah, I love the adventures that like those types of movies take us on, and like you want to be there then and like explore it like with the characters in the film.
Yeah, and also like for a movie like this, like, you know, we had a little bit of time as it was being written and kind of thought about, and so I went back and I watched a bunch of river movies. I was like, what else is out there that is a good comp, and like what are the things that you expect to happen, and kind of the puzzle pieces you have to work with in telling a kind of jungle river movie in particular, and also what are the associations that audiences have with the Amazon, because it's a huge place. It encompasses many countries, right? It's an interesting, and yet it's a thing that we think of for the region, right? Like we say the Amazon, not like the city or the country. And it's kind of an environment that has specific cinematic meanings. And so it's fun to kind of go and find what those were and think of how to work that into a story for Hallmark.
Yeah.
So your last one, you had a lot of travel, some crazy travel. this question is about that. Was there as much hassle with travel with this one as there was the last one? And what was it like getting to your sets to shoot while being on set in the Amazon?
Good question. Yes, but different. So last time before this, we were doing to recap. It was the polar opposites and Machu Picchu proposal back
Mhm.
shot across several countries and kind of some very out of the way places. On the beach and glaciers up on Machu Picchu. This time was all in one spot. So we went to Iquitos, Peru, which is kind of the capital of the Peruvian Amazon and the often described as the kind of the last city you can get to before you're in the jungle. Like you have to fly there. There's no roads out of Iquitos because there's no more stuff outside of Iquitos. It's like it's the end. You can get there by river or by plane.
Wow.
And then like from Iquitos, I remember it was interesting. Like when I first talked to Jaicy when she arrived and we met on the kind of roof bar of the hotel just to kind of talk about the part and the movie and get to know each other. And she's like, well, how close are we to the jungle? And I was like, well, if you look that way, do you see any lights? And we looked out like, what? Because it was nighttime. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like that's the river. And then across the river, thousands of miles of jungle. Like that's where we are. And so it was that environment. And Iquitos is a significant city, but it's surrounded by forest and it's on the rivers. And so shooting this movie was a transportation challenge from there. So like most of the movie takes place on a boat. You know, he has Danny has his boat, the Boto Rosa, and they travel a long way in fictional. That's it. Into the forest on that boat. And so we kind of thought about how do we do this movie. You know, the African Queen itself, the original, was filmed mostly in Africa, but it was a set boat that they had broken into parts, and they would shoot like this piece of a boat on a barge, and some of it was done on a soundstage in England with backdrops. I'm like, we can't do any of that. We're going to find a boat big enough to hold the whole crew, and we're just going to go. We're going to go out on the river every day. We're going to drive up and down, and we're just going to film the movie. And so finding the boat was the first challenge. But once we had it, and it was a challenge. Once we had it, it was like to get to the set every day, we would get up in our hotel, get in a van, drive the van across the big bridge onto dirt, drive down the dirt road to the shore, and then we'd get on a dinghy to get on the boat, to take the boat 30 minutes up the river to wherever we were going to be, and then film. Sometimes there were more boats in that chain. Like it would be take a boat to another boat. Or even when we were in towns, we would have to go down to the shore and take a boat upriver and then like load off the boat onto the shore to like walk up to the town and to film in the town because there's just no roads. It's like you travel by boat, which is not how film crews are used to working.
Nope.
You have to carry all of your equipment in and out of boats onto dirt. They don't have docks there really because the river raises and lowers so much. So it was a very transportation heavy movie. And also being on the boat, you have to be very aware. Like I feel like the boat, it sounds like a cliche thing to say, but the boat is a character in the movie. It's also a character in the making of the movie because what's outside the boat is very photographically important. And so like as we prepped and as I kind of got to know the rivers we were shooting on, you have to kind of be aware where on the river you're going to be at what time of day, both for where the sun is going to be and for what you're going to see behind the characters. So I would try to plan like, okay, we're going to do 3 more takes going this way, and then we'll turn the boat around while we turn the camera around so that we're shooting this side. And then we'll travel this way for 3 hours and then make a left turn so that by the time we're to this scene, it'll be a narrower river, which fits this part of the story better. And then at lunch, we'll be within range so that they can bring the boat with our food to meet our boat within range of the town. You know, it's just like a lot of that kind of logistics that just never end. So yeah, There's a lot of transportation logistics, but very different transportation logistics.
Yeah. And hopefully your next one isn't quite like that, because you've had some treacherous travel, my friend. I mean, three movies you directed in a row. I don't know how you did it. I would have been dead about halfway through.
It's a fun problem to have, but also, they say like kids, boats, animals are the three hardest things on a movie. And
yep.
I was talking to Alex Yellen, the DP, and he's like, on this one, he's like, you have kids, boats, and animals, and you have all the kids and animals on boats. You're right. Good job, us. We planned smartly.
And my question was, well, I feel like we kind of covered this,
Mhm.
but what were some of like the biggest challenges like being in the Amazon? Like, do you have any like animal encounters or like different things that just were like unexpected but expected for being in that region?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's an environmental
Mhm.
challenge above everything else. Like, it's very hot, it's very wet.
Mhm.
On the bright side, I feel like it's an extreme enough environment that everybody took it seriously. So we
Mhm.
didn't really have kind of the level of unprepared that you might be on a lot of shoots, but like you have to get your vaccinations in advance and
Mhm.
Mhm.
be aware of like you can't just go wandering in the jungle. So everyone has to stay close. There's a lot of bugs and things that bite and sting and itch, and we had a lot of that kind of thing, and we definitely needed our medic more than we would like to have. I got stung by some kind of wasp, did my
Oh
whole arm go
no.
numb for like
Oh
an
God.
hour.
Oh.
So there was a lot of, but like we all knew that was coming, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
fine. I think that just the nature of the place and the
Mhm.
river also, and how much of a part of life it is, and how
Yeah.
central it is to the appearance and feeling and the way everything operates. Like, it just doesn't match your expectations from
Mhm.
outside. And we try, in telling a story like this, we want to give a sense of the character of the place. And so when David Boyles and I, the producer, arrived and started looking around, we started calling Juliana, the writer, and telling her things that, like, okay, here's what we find. And like, there was one example that she likes to remind me of I called her like, hey, Juliana, there's no docks. She's like, what do you mean? Because like a lot of the movie was written like from dock to dock, right? Like, you
Yeah.
go to this dock and have this scene, and then and I'm like, yeah, no, they don't do that here. Uh, at first, I didn't believe it because they kind of told me that, and I don't know. I was just like, okay,
Mhm.
well, can we just like find the couple? And it's like, no. I'm like, well, what do you do? Because like we had this big boat. You've seen the pictures, and
Mhm.
like, well, where can we stop to do a shoreside scene? And they're like, wherever you want. I was like, okay, well, I don't believe that. There's also big language barriers here. Like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of the other Peruvians who speak Spanish. And they're like, no, just wherever you want. I'm like, okay. So day one, I'm like, all right, what about here? And they're like, yeah, no problem. Just bam, slam the boat into the shore, nose first, throw a rope around a tree, hop out with machetes, chop everything down. And like, here you go.
Okay.
And that's just how they are.
Wild.
And it's like, what's the fastest way to get things on and off our boat? Like, we need to load all of our
Mhm.
supplies and props. And they're like, you just hire people to carry it.
Mhm.
And part of the reason, which I didn't realize, is that we were there in not the lowest, but close to
Mhm.
the lowest water of the year. But the difference in the water level is incredible. If you
Mhm.
look at maps, like I'm used to scouting and looking at a place and then dropping a GPS pin, and I'll go back later and look at the Google map, and I was not finding the places that I visited on the map. Like, I'd look at the Google map and it's just not there. And I realized it's because they're all float and they move in and out over the time of the year as the tide raises, and
Mhm.
not tide,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? The water level goes
Mhm.
up and
Yeah.
down. And it might be, 20, 30 feet higher or lower. And even over the period we were there, you'd visit a place and then come back a week later, and it was an entire story lower water level, and the river's completely different. You can't go to the places you could go.
Uh-huh.
Buildings are inaccessible that were accessible. and like everything's built on stilts because at the high time of year, high water time of year, they're all like right at the water level. But when we're there, they're way up in the air with staircases. So it's like the environment sets so many of the requirements for what you're doing. That really was a big factor.
Yeah, that's so interesting to hear though, but like you wouldn't even realize it like unless you like traveled there and like actually saw it in person.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Yeah.
We didn't anyway.
Yeah.
You can look it up, but you watch
Yeah.
YouTube videos and like read, but until you really see it, it doesn't really register how things work.
Yeah.
This is sounding like a harder shoot. So this is a nice segue into my question. What was the hardest shot to accomplish for you?
I think there's a couple contenders, but I think the hardest part, there's a section which shouldn't, well, it might have been hard. Well, there's a section towards the end where some people in a small boat are racing to catch up to the big boat. And they like pull up alongside and jump on and that. But this was the last stuff we were filming with the big boat, and the big boat broke down. So the night before, 2 nights before, whatever, it was not like the engine was dead. And so we were out on the river after a lot of angst. We were out on the river on the boat, and we had 7 other boats, like every boat we could rent, tied to it, trying to puppeteer it down the river, but it kept spinning out of control. And so we were on the boat. Our other boat was out in the water with Jaicy on it, and Jean Paul, that other actor. We had a drone in the air, and we're all like on walkies yelling at each other, like, stay facing this way, face this way. Okay, we got like a window. I think the boat's facing forward. Let's go, action. And then like during the shot, the boat would like spin and just like run into a tree. It was very difficult to get that sequence, but we got it, and it looks good, and you never know. We had to paint all those boats out.
I can't wait to see it, like the final product of it all. I'm sure it's gonna look incredible.
Yeah. The other contender is toward the end of the movie. There's a location, also toward the end, I guess, that's a treehouse hotel. You can't quite tell in the movie, but the hotel, the rooms are tree houses, and they're 200 feet in the air, like way high up these awesome trees, but they can only hold, I think, 5 people at a time. So we had to like hoist our equipment up, and then we had a like exchange system where we'd like hang 3 flights of steps down and be like, okay, makeup go up, and then we trade one person up and one person down to like go up and do the thing we needed to do in the room to shoot, because you can only have 5 people in there. And then there were all these bridges between them, like suspension bridges that you can only have 2 people on at a time. So you'd have to do like a buddy system to carry things across. It was logistically quite difficult.
I feel like Hallmark needs to do like a behind the scenes of like making the films and the challenges that go into it.
I agree.
we've got a few with some stories.
I'm sure you do. I mean, for Polar Opposites, it was ungodly cold, and it seems like every single movie that you've done, you are against the elements.
Yes.
We do like, I mean, we kind of wish it upon ourselves, though. We're like, we're the crew who will go do the things that no one else will do.
Yeah.
Which is great, because honestly, it's a crew, like a lot of the crew is the same, and it's a very small crew, but we like traveling and we like going to interesting places. So it's a good set of challenges to have. Like, I'd rather try to figure out how do you hoist equipment 200 feet into the air in the jungle than like how do you deal with shooting an actor who can only work Tuesday and Thursday of 3 different weeks because they're in a series, or that kind of thing. Just a normal problem, but
yeah,
not a fun problem.
And we see that Claire's journey begins with finding her sister. So how important was that emotional motivation in shaping the love story?
Definitely. I mean, it's quite important. One of the story challenges in doing a movie like this is trying to figure out how do you get your character to this environment in a way that makes sense and feels, in any way relatable to an American audience. And so our thought with Claire is that she is somebody who is motivated to do right by her sister. So she feels responsible for, without getting into all the details, you find a lot of this out right away. So she has to get a document to her sister to sign. It's a big opportunity for her. And she feels responsible for her not knowing it's coming. But her sister is up the river working out of communication. And she finds it last minute and has no time to figure out how to get it to her. So she's like, I just have to go bring it to her. And the idea is that Claire is not someone who would do this kind of thing, right? She's very much a book lover. She reads a lot. She has this very romantic idea of what travel is, from all these kind of classic novels she's read, and doesn't actually do this stuff. So she's out of her element, but pushing herself. And that's why it's important to the love story that Danny, Raphael's character, sees that she is so very driven to do this thing that is clearly uncomfortable and difficult for her. And initially he kind of laughs it off. He's like, it's never going to work. But then as he gets to know her, he's impressed by her perseverance and her drive. And the fact that one other thing we tried to do with Claire, with Jaicy's character, is we were like, she is like a fish out of water, right? Classically. But we don't want to keep that being the feeling the whole way. We're like, she's a fish out of water who thrives, which is an important distinction, that she doesn't try and fail and then, well, she might fail, but she doesn't try and fail over and over and over again and we make it a joke. It's she learns, and even if she doesn't fail, she's not crushed by it. She's her determination is reinforced, and she enjoys what she discovers about herself in the process of pushing her limits. And so that is very, very important to the two of them in the sense that she's not there for a personal reason or for a superficial reason. She's there doing something important for somebody else, which is a thing that Danny's character can relate to from what he has done with his life. His character is somebody who has ended up doing what he does out of a sense of responsibility, without getting too into it, to his family, and he can relate to Claire's journey, and so they connect over that kind of shared experience.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see how
it
plays out.
Roundabout answer,
no, it's good to hear the background of it.
Speaking of background, a lot of times there are moments in a movie where you can tell it's scripted or where it's improv. Are you one of those directors that like to give leeway to give them some moments of improv, or do you like to stick to the script?
Oh, I'd love to give people opportunity to improv. I mean, I feel like unless you have actors who are really improv heavy actors, the amount of change you find is often limited. But I very much like to create room to try things, and to experiment a little bit and to add. And often in a scene, we will discuss new ideas and adding things. And also, if something happens during the shoot that works well, I am totally in for it. And there was a scene in this movie where, just I'm trying to think of funny examples, where Raphael had a scene where it's a very dramatic moment for his character and this kind of deep emotional thing. And somebody asks him do you regret this choice? And the script was no, I don't, but it worked out for the best. And he's like, I have a proposed alternate line. And I'm like, okay, what is it? He's like, yes. I'm like, oh, so the exact opposite. He's like, right, no, it's completely wrong. He's like, what it says is wrong. He regrets it. I definitely regret it. And here's what it means. And all right, let's do it. Like, you told me. It's a good argument. I think it's important. You can't just say yes. We have to say that other stuff you said too about like what it means to you. But like, yeah, I'm convinced. So it is very much a living document, especially as you kind of find the characters and find that relationship as you shoot.
I feel like it makes them seem more natural too, like with their acting when they get a chance to like improv some things here and there.
100%.
Yeah, and it's important to have the structure to guide that improv, to know, what the goals are and what you're trying to achieve in the scene and how they're how it's changing over the course of that scene. But within that, like it's you can often find the button, like the little end to a scene, or sometimes the funniest moment or a very natural reaction will be the unscripted bit that you find.
Yeah.
And the final question, we've covered everything else but this, and then we'll get to know you a little bit better and ask a few more questions about the movie that aren't written.
Sure.
So this story blends adventure, family, and what was it like watching Jaicy and Rafael like bring these characters to life?
Sure. Yeah, no, it was really fun. They're both great and super professional, very prepared, and take their work really seriously. I think that one of the interesting things was finding, like, I had not, we find our cast kind of very towards the end of the process, right? So it's like you find out who you're working with near the shoot, and I wasn't as familiar with either of them as I was. Like the last two movies I did were both with Rhiannon for second and third time in a row. So by the third one, I was like, all right, I know exactly what we're doing. It's great. Meeting and seeing how it plays the first time, and like Jaicy's take on it was very different than I initially imagined. I think it works great. And I think that essentially it was written for that kind of like high anxiety energy that we had sometimes from some of the comic stuff Rhiannon does. And Jaicy is very like calm and reserved and plays it kind of small and internal. And like you'll see you can see from the trailer, there's this like rapid sequence which I think was scripted as being like this big, broad, like bumping into stuff and, freaking out. And it's not how we played it at all. And I think what Jaicy did works really well. And it's fun to find that. It's interesting, like as you're doing a movie like this, because it's also fast, that you kind of find it as you're doing it. But it was great to see them bring it to life. And I think that they work together very well, and I think they also they work with each other very well, and finding the things that make their characters tick and that make them connect to each other. Like we all talked about it a lot as we went along, and kind of the script ended up tweaking a little bit to match what we found on the way. And we were lucky in that some of the more conclusive kind of romantic sequences happen toward the end of the movie of our shooting schedule. And so we kind of got to address what gets there and how their characters connect along the way. And they were both very, very much a big part of that in finding those journeys.
That's neat to hear too, like how things vary between like actors' personalities and like what they're comfortable doing, what isn't so much in their comfort zone.
Well, fortunately, we try to warn everyone going into one of our movies, like this is not going to be a comfortable shoot. Like it's not going to be horrible, but you know where you're going.
Yes.
And, Jaicy was like on board right from the beginning. She's like, yeah, I want to do it. Like, and I think she stayed after we left. Like she loved it. And Rafael was like, I'm from Venezuela. Like this is I'm used to this. It's great. He's a native Spanish speaker. So he was prepared for that side of it too, the kind of environmental side. And then, then it was about the character work. Because that's the thing too, is it's like, all right, go climb this mountain, and then when you get there, perform.
Yeah.
So it's like a combination of like hiking and then putting on a play.
Yep.
Actually, where we I don't know if you know the movie Fitzcarraldo.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
This is where they
with it.
shot that. So there's a lot of like
okay.
Fitzcarraldo stuff there, and there are a lot of references to the like, let's do an opera in the jungle kind of madness.
That's gonna be so niche, and I'm gonna love it.
They're not in the movie. Well, subtly, but
okay.
I just meant on set.
So it seems like the last 3 movies have had a lot of issues with one thing. There's one thing on a movie set that keeps everybody going. That seems to be food. What was the food like on this movie, and how did you get it? You said that you got the food by boat, but what was that process in telling them the food you wanted and needed, and what was the one food that you potentially tried that you never did before?
I'll start with that. The thing I tried that I had never had before was it's called chunta, and it's essentially palm heart, I think, but shredded into like noodles, almost like big, wide, flat noodles, and they put it in salads, and this they were like very thin, flat, white, wide noodles made from palm, and they're really good. So I had never had that before, which was interesting. And then there's some fruits that I'd never had before, but the food there is very there's a lot of fresh fruits, being tropical, and a lot of fish, I think, though I'm a vegetarian, so I didn't eat that. But we were fortunate. We worked with the same, well, it's not fortunate. I guess we set ourselves up to succeed. Worked with the same production team that we did in Machu Picchu Proposal, because Iquitos is in Peru, so the same Peruvian team could work. It's a very, very different part of the country.
Yeah.
But they came to meet us, and the logistics of the food were, I'm sure, an absolute nightmare. But I think in their credit, I didn't have to worry about it because they kept it all just working. We would have breakfast before we left at our hotel every morning, and then there'd be snacks and stuff in one of the rooms on the boat, and then they would, we had a catering company. Actually, it was the Fitzcarraldo Cafe in Iquitos who made the food, and they would bring it to us by boat. And when their boat would meet our boat, and like I said, I don't know how they made the logistics work, because we didn't even know where our boat was going to be every day. Like, it was only in my head where the boat was going to be, and it wasn't even always where I thought it would be. Like, it would just be where we needed to be for the sake of the filming. Because as I said with Polar Opposites, like the complexity of like dealing with a moving boat for sun angle and backgrounds and stuff is complicated, especially on a windy river. It's like your sun's changing all the time. And they would come and meet us, and then we'd break for lunch, and there was food. So good on them. A job well done for managing the impossible. But the food was quite good. Peru takes their food very seriously, and they made very tasty food for us, which is important because people worked really hard. Water was the hard part. Like, it's so hot.
Yeah.
You sweat a lot, and drink a lot of water.
Everyone was very well hydrated.
Yes.
Try to be. Yeah. And we had a number of issues with people just getting too hot and like having to stop working and sit out for a day or some hours just from heat. And sun is no joke.
Yeah. And with filming like in the Machu Picchu area and then in this area too, like more by the rainforest, did you notice like a lot of cultural differences between the two?
Oh yeah. It's the same, like I said, same country, but very culturally distinct parts of the country. They don't even always speak. I mean, Spanish is the language, but like the locals don't all speak Spanish, but they speak different languages. In the Sacred Valley area, they speak Quechua, and then in this region, I don't there's so many. There's a line in the movie I think where he's like, they speak so many different languages here, and like it's true. We dealt with like several different kind of indigenous groups, and they speak their own languages. They also speak Spanish, but they speak their own languages. And even our Peruvian production team, like there were days we'd be out talking to, locals who were mostly extremely cooperative and like happy to work with us. But I would ask a question, she would translate it, they would answer, and then she'd turn to me and go, "I don't know what he said." Or the answer didn't make sense, and I'm like, "Oh, that doesn't make sense. What does that mean?" And then they go back and forth for a while, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't know. Find out what happens." So they had trouble communicating, and they live there in the same country, but they're not close together. And it's also like just the cultural expectation and behavior is quite different. Quitos is very much it's a place defined by its environment. It's the capital of the Amazon in Peru. So it's the Amazon is what defines what that place is like.
What was the scariest thing that you saw when you were there? Like an animal or something like that you weren't quite used to seeing, like a huge snake. Or
we did work with an anaconda, so we had an anaconda on set, and I wasn't super worried about the anaconda, but they're creepy. They're big, and you can tell just from the way the handlers handled it that they took it seriously. I think honestly, probably insects. Like there's just some big spiders and they're everywhere. It's like when we were shooting in the jungle at night. It's like you touch it, they're like, don't lean on the trees.
Yeah.
And I can't remember that stuff. So I'd lean in the trees and look at just 1,000 bugs on my arm. And
yep.
Or I'm a lot taller than average there, so I would like walk through a space and all the spider webs would stick to my head, and then I'd be like, is there a spider in my hair? So probably that, but it wasn't really very scary ultimately for me anyway. But probably the anaconda, I guess. But there was a lot of wildlife.
Kirsten?
And then the other question that I had, since you've gone to travel to so many different places, is there somewhere else like on your bucket list that would be a dream place to shoot?
We still hope. I think last time I said Japan. We're still hoping for Japan. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. We've proposed some other interesting places, like we've talked about trying to do the Galapagos would be really cool. I'd love to do somewhere in Africa. Egypt would be amazing.
Yeah,
Egypt would be
really. If no one else wants to go there, I'm down. That's pretty much the rule. We still want to actually go to Antarctica. I don't think that's going to happen because we faked Antarctica. But that's on the list. If anybody has an Antarctica movie, can we call? We know how to do it. Yeah, I don't know. We looked at a volcano movie too.
Oh, okay.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Maybe you could do one like by Pompeii.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I would love to do Italy. It is the challenge there is like that is a location that is done a lot already. So it's harder to justify our group being sent there because the kind of more traditional, larger Hallmark movies already go there.
Yeah.
No, I would love it.
Yeah.
So speaking on you not only direct, but you're a producer. For me, I know what a producer does, but for everybody else, what do you do as a Hallmark movie producer?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of different answers to that question too. And I think that's part of why people find what a producer does so confusing, because it's not just one job. Personally, I am not a producer mostly in the sense of like a developing producer. I'm not the one who makes the movie happen from the get-go. I tend to work in more of a physical production capacity, they would say. So I work with Andrew Gernhard at Synthetic Cinema, and he does a lot more of that side of it for these movies, and I tend to come in and just help get the movie made. So I work with the crew on set, I work with hiring and just kind of crew and personality management, and kind of handling big picture budget questions and advice on how set works and what you need and how to achieve the the requirements of the script. And also I think another big part of it is just having the production experience to be able to estimate things pretty well, because often you'll get a script, or not even a full script, you'll get like a treatment or a concept, and they'll be like, can this be done for this budget? Or where and how do we do this thing? Or how quickly can you do this? And so just being able to look at it and kind of estimate what's going to be required, hopefully accurately, is part of it. And also just knowing kind of what all the different departments need and what they're doing. And I think that the on-set role of a good physical producer often is to make sure that the shooting crew has everything they need to succeed without having to ask for it more than necessary, that you've done a good job allocating your resources to the different teams to produce the best result, and not bottleneck your production somewhere. You know what I mean? Like if there's 20 different departments working towards a common goal, whoever is the least prepared is going to slow the whole operation down, or the weakest link in your chain is going to what you're going to see. So it's about trying to stay ahead of those problems and just keep the production going, make sure that it's properly prepared and supplied and hired, right? Like you have the right people there to get the job done.
Kirsten?
Middle management.
And my final question that I had was, what really got you interested with like working in Hallmark? Like from the beginning, were you someone who like saw their work before, like in the movies and different things that kind of like interested you towards being a part of this?
So I don't think I specifically sought out. Well, I know I did. I didn't specifically seek out Hallmark. I kind of got everybody's route is different, but mine started kind of coming through other television production. So I started off doing horror movies, and I did monster movies, like direct-to-video monster movies with Andrew at Synthetic, and then that led to us doing original movies for, at that time, NBC's horror network called Chiller. And so I did their first TV movie, and then a few more, and then Chiller went away. And then because we were doing TV productions, we got hired to do productions for Lifetime, which at the time was doing slightly different programming than they are now. And we did some Lifetime movies, and then one of the executives there moved to Hallmark, and they started hiring us to do stuff for Hallmark. And then at the same time, like, I ended up getting hired by Tim Johnson, who I had done some thrillers for, to do a Christmas movie that was for Hallmark. And so it kind of, it's the community that you're in, you know what I mean? And by doing kind of TV feature work, Hallmark is a big player, if not the big player in many ways, in kind of lower budget TV movie production. And so we kind of found our way into that world, and then enjoy working with them. And I like doing different genres, and I also really like rom-coms. So it's worked out well. And so I kind of also have feet in kind of two different camps of what they do. In the directing side these days, I'm mostly doing these kind of acquisition travel movies, and then on the production side, I'm working on their kind of domestic originals, which are often bigger, but a different kind of job.
And to wrap this up, we have to thank you too, because it's because of you that we've met some of the nicest people on the face of the planet and have actually become friends with some of the Hallmark stars.
Oh, awesome.
If it wasn't for you, I mean, my God. Alex Santos, Rhiannon Fish. She literally will just go back and forth with us any time now. And we're like, we never thought in a million years that we would be friends with a star like that.
That's amazing. I saw her in the intro a few times. I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah. She will come on anytime. She'll come on here just to talk.
That's amazing. That was such a great cast in that movie.
I love that
Chris
movie.
and Michelle.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
it was a joy every day.
And Chris is gonna come back on just for like a recap, and we're gonna dive deep into him as a person because I know he is passionate about a lot of things, and I just want to see him go crazy about Pokemon. I mean,
Yes.
That's gonna be fun, and I'm sure my audience will get a lot of laughs out of that. A lot of clicks. But if you guys don't have any plans, but let's face it, you're Hallmark viewers, I know what you're gonna do. Next Saturday, January 17th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Hallmark Channel, Love on the Amazon, and next on Hallmark Plus. Until next time, everybody, like and subscribe for more. Colin, where can we find you on social media?
Oh, I'm very bad at social media, but mostly, I guess, Instagram, Colin Face.
And you
Kirsten?
can find me on Instagram too at Kirst_Hendershaw, and then also on our Hallmark page at Heartful of Hallmark.
You can find me on Instagram, Noah_Kaser, and the Heartful of Hallmark page. Until next time, everybody, keep your heart full of Hallmark.